This wasn't a video I intended to make, at least not at this point. I plan to have a modest video rollout of at least 2 or 3 pieces, including my Who Pressed Your Button series, shameless plug, and my first conversations with my brother, which is going to be on another subject entirely. But the inclusion of a certain subject into our discourse has made it apparent that I need to deal with it now. Of course, I'm talking about abortion. Unless you've been living under a rock, in a cave, or on the frickin' ocean on Europa, you had to have heard about the recent state craze of making an abortion after a fetal heartbeat illegal. Well, my state is poised to become another. They are going to start debate today, and I fully expect that they will send that bill to the governor by the end of next week, so my timetable has moved up considerably.
PanicClown's Conversations with My Brother.
The uptick in conversation on a national scale naturally led to a number of conversations with my brother, one of which my brother recorded so that he can listen to it again later. One of the things that my brother was most surprised by when listening back was to realize that I'm both pro-life and pro-choice. See, throughout the conversation, one thing my brother had assumed was that I was confused about what I believed and made decisions based solely on my decidedly liberal views. He came to a very different understanding at the end of the conversation, but I still failed to adequately convey my reasons for what I believed. For now, you can say that I'm 100% on the side of the pro-choice movement in the United States. I will talk a little later about the reasons for my pro-life stance and the reason why it doesn't conflict with my pro-choice stance. We all know what the hubbub is all about, but let's save that for a little later too. Suffice it to say that regardless of the reason, it has been a hot topic, and it would be impolitic of me not to speak my piece, such as it is. Honestly, I see both sides as far as the efficacy of me speaking at all, but I think that for those that can hear, and more importantly listen, my voice might be helpful. To begin with, let's talk about the scope of the problem. When I started doing research into this topic, I had a number of questions. How many abortions worldwide? How many in the US? In which direction has the number of abortions been going in the world and in the US? And where are the highest and lowest rates of abortion, and what can we learn from what they have done? There were also questions of which I had not thought. For instance, my brother asked me about the accuracy of the data in countries where abortion is highly restricted. If abortion is highly restricted, how do we know how many abortions there are? Well, a little searching on Google Scholar led me to this paper, in which the authors outline 5 separate methods to determine accuracy. It goes on to say that they suggest strategies for assessing the validity of the findings in the absence of a gold standard. From there, the study goes in depth into each of the methods, and the advantages and disadvantages with each. If you'd like to read more, there will be a link in the description. The upshot is that we at least have an idea of the magnitude of the situation. So what is the answer to the first question? On first blush, the numbers tell of a significant increase, from 50 million annually during 1990 to 1994, to 56 million in 2010 to 2014. However, according to the Abortion Worldwide 2017 report written by Sushila Singh et al., numbers of abortions worldwide only tells part of the story. Whereas absolute numbers are influenced by population size, annual rates are not. According to the report worldwide, the abortion rate was 35 out of 1,000 women for the years 2010 to 2014, down from 40 out of 1,000 in 1990 to 1994. Also, according to the scientists who presented this report, while the incidence of abortions has decreased sharply in developed countries, the rate remains virtually unchanged in developing ones. Also of note, of all abortions, an estimated 55% are safe, i.e., done using a recommended method and by an appropriately trained provider. 31% are less safe. They meet either method or provider criterion. And 14% are least safe, meet neither criterion. The more restrictive the legal setting, the higher the proportion of abortions that are least safe, ranging from less than 1% in the least restrictive countries to 31% in the most restrictive countries. But that's all international. Even if all of that's true, the US might have been experiencing an increase in rate regardless. Well, you're right. So let's look at the US specifically. But wait, there's already a really good report on this by Beau of the Fifth Column. He's got a way of cutting through all of the BS and getting right to the point, so I recommend that you pause this video and go to watch his video, link in the description below. It'll only take a little more than 11 minutes if I'm not mistaken, and I don't mind at all. Now that you're back, one of the most intriguing facts presented were that 59% of abortions were for women who had kids. They knew what they were giving up. Another is that only 8% of women who have abortions have had 3 or more. And finally is the fact that you are 3 times as likely to have an abortion if you are on Medicaid. The short and sweet version, though, is that the trends worldwide are mirrored in the United States, so it would appear as if the abortion rates are indeed falling. And by all indications, the reason for this is due to a sharp drop in the unintended pregnancy rate, influenced by a number of factors. Look at the key findings by Feiner and Zollner in 2016. So wait, you might be asking. If abortion rates are going down, and the rate of unintended pregnancies is also going down, why are the Republicans, plus some Democrats like my governor, in such a frenzy to pass these heartbeat bills? By now, you should have a good idea of the real reason for all of this. Roe versus Wade. Ever since January 22, 1973, when Justice Harry Blackmun handed down the 7-2 decision that made abortion a right protected by the Constitution, the conservatives in both parties, but mostly the right, particularly those of a religious inclination, have been slowly pushing back. I will put links in the description outlining the times before, during, and after this important decision. In particular, note Casey versus Planned Parenthood. What you need to know for this is that Casey versus Planned Parenthood is the controlling law under Roe v. Wade, and that it expanded states' rights to regulate abortion if the regulation did not constitute an undue burden on the woman's right to acquire an abortion. The 2 key points that the justices reaffirmed was that no abortion could be banned before the viability of the fetus, and that in no cases could states restrict abortions necessary to protect the health or well-being of the mother. These heartbeat bills are designed to challenge the core of this reaffirmation. There are plenty of articles out there telling you about the heartbeat bills and why they're not actually about a real heartbeat. Check out this article from Wired by Adam Rogers for a more in-depth explanation. So, the question that needs to be asked is, how will the justices decide? First of all, the case needs to go before the court, and I'm not positive that the justices will decide to hear any of the cases. There's a good article by Natasha Bach titled, "Can Roe v. Wade Be Overturned?" in which she goes into the reasons for thinking that the conservative justices will not hear any cases until after the 2020 election, and that they won't want to make substantial changes to the underlying law regardless. Despite what I consider to be well-reasoned and coherent arguments, I think that this is an optimistic view. The court's makeup fundamentally changed with the appointments of Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and I fear that together with Alito and Thomas, they will force one of the cases dealing with heartbeats to be heard by the court. I also feel that with the current makeup of the court, the possibility exists that they will take up the fig leaf of a fetal heartbeat and change the standard. If that happens, then we are off to the races, and I will make a video informing you of ways that you can fight back. So, with all that said, let's get back to the conversation I was having with my brother. It should be obvious that I'm very firm in my pro-choice views, so why would my brother come to the conclusion that I am both pro-life and pro-choice? Well, it's because one of the underlying themes of this conversation was my feeling that all life is precious and should be protected. From discussions about the death penalty, exploring other planets, and the like, it became apparent that I seemed to hold viewpoints that contradicted my feelings about abortion. What my brother failed to realize was that it was because I think that all life is valuable that I am pro-choice. First of all, I'm not so much about life as I am about quality of life. In the paper titled "Reasons Why Women Have Induced Abortions, a synthesis of findings from 14 countries," Che et al. Found that in the United States, in the most recent study, 2010, the reasons were not being ready financially, 40%, not being ready for a baby at this time, 36%, and partner-related concerns, 31%. Coming right behind those is needing time for the children she already has, at 29%. Those are truly sensible reasons for seeking an abortion, and they all have to do with preserving quality of life. But my brother said that's still a life. Surely you aren't saying that the mother has a better claim to life than the unborn child. Yes, actually that is exactly what I'm saying, but my concern is for the fetus as well. There are 2 checks during the first 20 weeks of a pregnancy, specifically to find out if something is wrong with the fetus, during which time the overwhelming majority of abortions take place at 97%. Beyond the fact that until a central nervous system forms and begins having brain activity, the fetus is not viable. The earliest a child has been born and survived is at 21 weeks. Until that time, we are talking about the difference between a potential person, the fetus, and an actual person, the woman. So yeah, her right to bodily autonomy wins out every single time. Secondly, I do want to see the number of abortions go down. I find the statistics, especially from Eastern Europe, to be heartening. Despite what many on the right might want to believe, it wasn't achieved by crackdowns on abortion providers. Instead, the drop was solely due to an increase in modern contraceptives. While the United States does have modern contraceptives, it does have issues of its own, one of which is held within those statistics from Beau of the fifth column. Remember that one about who is likely to need abortion services? That's right, Medicaid recipients. 49% of women who sought abortions in the United States in the year 2014 were below the federal poverty line, while an additional 26% were at the 100% to 199% level. That means that 3/4 of the women who sought abortions were low income. You see, even though the financial burden is much higher on them, these women are also aware that their finances and resources are very limited. We can cause a drop in abortion rates, but it's my contention that this isn't really what it's all about. Despite study after study telling us that it leads to more teen pregnancy, the right continually pushes abstinence-only education. By the same token, the effectiveness of laws that would make it virtually impossible to get a legal abortion is shown to have almost no effect on the abortion rate. Hint, I'm talking about the heartbeat bills. If lowering this rate were truly their goal, it seems as if they're going about it entirely ass backwards. Instead, my contention is that those at the top of the party want to make sure that nothing changes to upset their apple cart. It isn't as if I'm telling you something you haven't heard before, but it's likely that you've never heard it regarding abortion. Conservative lawmakers do everything they can to keep poor women poor, and one of the most effective ways they can do this is to ensure that poor women have babies. Of course, by focusing on poor women, conservative lawmakers are also focusing on women of color, thereby providing a doubly beneficial outcome, at least as far as they see it. If you look at it through this lens, all of the right's maneuvering around abortion and sexuality makes a whole lot more sense. You see, I can answer the question of what we should do to impact the abortion rate nationwide. We can change the way we do healthcare, childcare, education, and food assistance, and make those services truly adaptive and accessible to the needs of the people. At that point, I can say with confidence that our abortion rate would fall precipitously. Right now, there are candidates who would at least begin the process, and one of them will get my vote. I am pro-life, and the truth is that I want every child born to get every opportunity to grow into a functioning and capable member of society. That hasn't happened yet, but I hope to be alive when it does. For those of you that still don't understand, read the stories at #YouKnowMe and #YouKnowUs on Twitter. It only took me reading 10 stories to be crying uncontrollably. After 20 or 30 stories, if you aren't at least open to the possibility that you might be mistaken in your beliefs, I don't know what to say. Like I said, this is a hot button issue, so I understand tempers will be high, but try to keep it civil in the comments. I'm starting this way ahead of schedule, but I'm going to shoot for having a video at least every 2 weeks. My next one is going to be taking a look at Great Harvest Church, initiating the Who Pressed Your Button series. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up below, or if you didn't, tell me all about it in the comments below. For more content like this in the future and to never miss a video, subscribe and hit that little bell icon. If you would like to support me in making more videos like this one, then head over to my Patreon where you can show your love for as little as $1 monthly, or to my PayPal for one-time donations. I'll improve and expand the offerings and tiers as the channel grows, but for now, your views, comments, and likes are the best support you can give. Thanks. Anyway, I'll catch you on the flip side.